Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
Well, resuming on the same tape, the 9th tape, this is another day. It's Wednesday, July 27th, and I'm here at Mirzad with Meherwan Jessawala. And last time, Meherwan, you had gotten as far as talking about the final declaration, and after that, Baba's clarification, which he gave in Satara in 1954 at Rosewood or wherever that was.
Rosewood.
Yeah. And Baba's using hand gestures for the first time.
Yeah.
The mood that prevailed then. So we can go on from that point.
Yeah, it was a very memorable meeting because, as I said, Baba had discarded the use of the board on 7th October 1954, if I remember the date right. And this was the first meeting thereafter. And although it was very difficult because the Mandali had not yet grasped Baba's gestures very well by then, but somehow it went smoothly. And everyone was very happy and satisfied at the end of the meeting. The clarifications that Baba gave, and there was a nice ending to it, and everybody was very happy, and we all left in a happy mood from Satara. And thereafter, I remember several visits we had to Satara, because, as I said, my cousin Sam was working in this halal shipping company, and he was able to save some money when he returned and thought of buying a car for Baba. I think I mentioned this last time. So Baba would call us to Satara, and I remember once that Sam had taken some films of an earlier meeting at Meherabad, I think. I'm not sure which. Probably, the 1954 meeting.
In September, with the 3 incredible weeks.
So, and some other footage that he had. So, we wrote to Baba, and Baba and the women expressed a wish to see the footage. So, there was also Deshmukh had sent a film, I think, of Baba's Andhra tour. So Baba wanted to see that also. So he sent word that we should try to bring a projector if possible. So I tried to get a big projector, a 16mm one, but couldn't get anywhere in Pune, the short notice that we had. So I remember I had approached Gadekar also to try and see if we could get a projector. But he was very enthusiastic, and he said we will try to meet this person and that person late into the night. And I was really impressed how Gadekar was so keen that we should get a projector, but the time was so short that we failed to get any projector. But really, the way Gadekar was trying to get it was a revelation as to how much interest for Baba he had, that whatever little Baba would want to, he was trying to put all of his efforts into it. And I must admit that I didn't put that much effort to get the projector. So it was a revelation to me. How the old Mandali really would do anything possible. So in any case, we left without it, and there was this small 8 projector which Sam had, and we went there, and in the night, Baba called us to Grafton, where the ladies were, and from Rosewood, and we set up the projector and started to show the film. Before that, I was arranging the screen, and I was doing this and that, and Baba was coming and helping me to set up the screen. And the Baba says, "That's all right now." And I said, "Baba, it's a little crooked." So I remember all these little details. Baba said, "It's enough, let it be." And then, yes, the program started, and we started showing the film. Although it was a very amateur effort, but Baba, and first it was Sam who showed his films, and then there was this film from Deshmukh, and he had also sent this projector. It was a very primitive device, just like Deshmukh, a ramshackle of a projector, and somehow we tried to show it, and the film was proceeding so fast in the projector, there was no control for slowing the film.
I see.
And
so everything is fast.
So, it was like a Charlie Chaplin film, in fast forward motion or something. Somehow I tried to reduce the speed, could reduce it a bit, but then we went through the whole film. And I remember we showing that Andhra tour film to Baba, which was later, I think, edited and made into a very nice film. Yes. By, I think, Gary and Steve.
Might be Meher Prasad.
Meher Prasad, They made a very good job of it. But this was Baba's viewing of the film at Satara.
I wish I could see what Baba would look like viewing a film of himself. He must have taken interest in it, I suppose?
He was relaxing in an easy chair. The women were around. We were sitting. I was on the projector and showing the film. And the women would sometimes exclaim, "Oh, Baba, how beautiful that shot is." And something like that. It would go on. So that was one of the visits to Satara. So when we reached Satara with the film, I think it was that visit only, and we went to Rosewood, and when we entered, Baba was busy attending to a must. He was cropping the hair of one of the musts inside the hall there.
Did you go in and see him?
So Baba then called me over. He says, "Come on, hold the torch while I'm cropping the hair," to assist him in doing this. So I remember that. And we all took turns. And then after cropping the hair, then Baba took him to the bathroom and gave him a good scrubbing and bath. And after that, Baba was free from that work.
It must have been quite a sight to see Baba, cutting the hair and washing musts who are like these lions among men. An ordinary person would do well not to attempt such a thing.
That's right. But with Baba, they would just be very amenable. So that was how we saw his divine authority, even with people on the higher planes of consciousness. Ordinary mortals wouldn't dare to handle them. But even then, Baba would be very, very, very loving, very gentle, and would coax them into what he would want to do with them. So and also would warn the mandli to be very gentle with them, because to manhandle a must would result in very severe consequences. So Baba would warn mandli also to be very careful with them. Yeah.
By the way, have you ever heard of an episode where a must really did become angry with one of the mandali and cursed him, or any such unfortunate episode?
No, I have not heard that. But I remember once when I would be at Meherazad and Kaka would tell his stories, Kaka Baria.
Right.
And Kaka Baria always had this rivalry with Baidul. Both had the common task of searching musts and all that. So there would be a little jealousy between them, you know. So Kaka would denigrate Baidul's ways of handling a must. He would tell me, Baidul, you know, is a very crude fellow. He never knows how to handle must. He would be very rough with them, and he doesn't know what he's heading for. He could get a devastating curse from the must. It's because of Baba he's saved, otherwise he'd really be in real trouble. He doesn't know how to handle must.
Did you ever do you think there's any substance to that? Or?
Yeah, Baidul used to be very rough, you know, and rather uncouth, but there was no question about the way he could ferret out a must from some nowhere, as it were. He was really adept in this task. And the amount of trouble and suffering that he underwent, as I said, when Baba had the piles, before that Baidul had them. And he used to be immensely troubled by these. And despite that, with the bleeding piles and all that, when Baba would ask him to go in search of must, he would go out in search, traveling miles and miles on foot, in the dark, in the heat, unmindful of any physical discomfort, and come back with a rich haul of musts, as it were. I mean, their addresses and their whereabouts, and then Baba would accompany Baidul and contact these musts. So Baba himself would say, Baidul has done great service for me. He's really fortunate. Despite his outward appearance, uncouthness and roughness, he's really fortunate. He's done great seva for me. Seva means service. Yeah. Very often Baba would say that.
I suppose for those involved in that work, to locate a good must have seemed like finding a great treasure.
Yeah, treasure in a ruin, as Baba would say. And and the remarkable thing Iraj would tell us was the phenomenal memory that Baidul had. Because he would go out in search of these musts. They would be in obscure villages where there would not even be pathways. And he would be, once he located the position, the place, he would be able to guide Baba and the party even in darkness. He had an amazing sense of direction and location. So that was another gift that Baidul had. So that helped immensely in must work. So these were the things, Yes, so it was in Satara that we were there. Then on another occasion, I remember we had visited Baba. I don't know whether it was the same visit or some other. And we were there in the hall, and it was a session of reading correspondence to Baba. So we were all seated there in Rosewood. Baba was hearing correspondence. And then there was a little joke that was being played that day. So what had happened was that Baba had asked Dheeraj to write a postcard as if purporting to be written by Kakabaria from Meherazad in Gujarati.
This Baba was the one who prompted this.
Yeah, just gave him a hint. Yeah. So Dheeraj wrote this postcard and posted it, from Satara only. And it came and it was to be read before Baba. So Dheeraj just read a part of it and said, Baba, this postcard has come. So Gustaji was not there. He was in his own room. So Baba says, call him now. So somebody went and called Gustaji that Baba wants you. So Gustaji comes and Baba very seriously, with a long face, he says, Gustaji, hear this postcard. It is relevant to you, so that's why I just called you for a short time. Hear this, then you can go back. And then it starts to read this postcard. And in it is mentioned that Kaka is writing to Dheeraj. And he says, Dear Dheeraj, I am writing this postcard in accordance with Baba's wishes of giving you news of Meherazad every week. And there is nothing particular to report except that I want to add the following information. But please be sure that Gustaji should not be around because he may take offense, but I have to give this information. So immediately Gustaji's ears pricked up and Baba says, listen, as it pertains to you, I have called you.
It pertains to him.
Yeah.
Kaka wanted him not to hear it.
Yeah. So then Gustaji says, read, what is it? So Kaka says that I am very sad to inform you that there was a man named Krishnaji. So he was ordered by Baba to stay at Meherazad and in the company of Kaka. So Kaka Varya writes there that this Krishnaji is of late getting very obstinate. One day he expressed a desire to enter Gustaji's room. This is what he's writing.
Right.
So yes. Gustaji in his silence. What next? And Baba is enjoying all this. We didn't catch all this, what is going on.
You didn't know this was a joke.
Yeah. Baba just winked to us, so we thought there was something unusual going on. And then he says that this Krishnaji is acting very boisterous. Despite my telling him not to enter Gustaji's room, he entered there, and then he had the temerity to open Gustaji's trunk. And Gustaji suddenly tells Dheeraj, but how dare he touch my trunk? But Dheeraj says, but listen, I don't know what has happened. This is what is being reported. Okay, read on. And Gustaji is getting flushed, So this man opens the trunk and he removes Gustaji's clothes. You know the Western clothes, that this man has touched my clothes. Gustaji starts shouting, in his silent manner. And so, and Baba is enjoying the scene. And then this man, despite my restraining him, he takes out those clothes and he actually wore them. And he struts about and says, look how I look in this suit. And Gustaji says, don't read any further. Send a letter today and tell Kaka Baria to remove all the contents of the trunk and burn up those clothes. I'm not going to wear them again. Because Gustaji had gone to the West with Baba, and for the first time in his life, this brand new suit was made to order for him. And after the New Life and the Manonash, where Gustaji, there is a photograph of Gustaji with his long beard and unshaven appearance and patched coat and patched lenga trouser. So after that, he was to be taken to the West. So Baba said, this sort of dress won't do that. They won't allow you to land in the States. The worst hobo would look better than the appearance of Gustaji at the time. So this good suit was prepared, and when Gustaji wore it, he looked like some continental professor, very smart, and so it was
quite a sight to
quite
see.
a sight, So Gustaji wore that suit there in the States, but when he returned, then it was all washed, dry clean, and put in a trunk and locked up. And Gustaji was back in his original
rags,
and wouldn't allow anybody to touch that trunk, And least of all this Krishnaji, whom he detested, because he was trying to impersonate Baba and his ways, and so there was a lot of ill feeling in some of the mandali to this Krishnaji, And so when he heard this, Gustaji was so furious, and really we saw him, he was really angry. And then Baba said, no, let out the joke. Because that day Gustaji was down with some fever, So Baba says, he'll burst now. So best thing is we tell him that it's just a joke. And then Baba says, today had you not had fever, I wouldn't have let you know that this was a joke. And then Gustaji just quietened down. But
how did he take the disclosure of the joke?
Then he started to smile. He was quite happy that nothing of the sort had happened. But he wasn't cross with Baba for the joke or anything. He just took it in a good humor. And Baba embraced Gustaji and says, go. But this was one way of how Baba would do little jokes,
I've heard Erich tell from time to time how Baba, almost just for amusement or just to stir things up, would
screw up somebody.
Between two Mandalay.
And then watch the fun. So this was a live demonstration to us. So that was a nice session we had that day. Then on another visit, we remember Baba had arranged for a Qawwali program. There was a Qawwal by the name of Jadho who was called from Bombay. So Baba wanted to have a whole night of Qawwali program and wanted people to remain awake with him.
This was at Satara still.
Satara,
Would this be at Rosewood that these kinds of programs?
No, I think the Qawwali program was held in Grafton Bungalow because Baba wanted the women also to hear it.
I see.
So we were called and we were with Baba during the day, and in the evening Baba took us there. And if I remember rightly, first Baba lined us all up and had a prayer session, and after that Baba said that he would bow down to each one of us. We had to put our foot on a stool and Baba would touch his forehead on our feet. And we never had this experience before. So some of us were thinking about it. I think my cousin Dadi was there also. Baba says, don't think about it. Just do what I ask you to do. And then of course we all had to line up and put our foot there, and Baba bowed down to each one of us. And after that was over, then the solemnity of the occasion was over. Baba was again in a good mood. And then Baba said, now everybody must be very much awake. So be very alert, and I'll serve you all nice hot coffee. So I think it was coffee or tea probably, yeah. So to help us remain awake. And everybody was given this and big mugfuls of hot tea or coffee, whatever it was, served by Baba himself. And then there was this big hall there, and in the side room were the women, and the Mandali were here.
They could look in through a window or door?
I think there was a curtain there. They had just to, probably they could see Baba in a way, we don't know how. And the Kawals were there, and it was a nice program. And the Kawal was also given tea and some nice food in so that he could give off his best. And the whole night long program was there. There were a couple of intervals to give him rest to his voice and all that, but otherwise it was night long program. Baba liked the Qawwali also.
Good singer.
Yeah, good singer, yeah. Otherwise, if the singer is not good, Baba would cut short the program. But quite for up to 3 or 4 in the morning we were there with Baba. And that was one program, I think in 54 or 55. Yeah.
How many people would be invited to such a program?
Few from Bombay, Pune and nearby places, yes. Not many. Because Baba's seclusion work would be going on. You see, even after this 54 meeting, Baba said he would be now in strict seclusion again. And at that time, that Jal Villa was taken on rent, which was between Crafton and Rosewood, and specially secluded bungalow where Baba was in total seclusion. And Mera money would be called, I think, once a week or something to meet Baba. And it's there where Mani described us about that incident about the tree catching fire. I wonder if you recollect that. Mani told us once in this hall that they were called to Jal Villa one day, and they happened to, at the entrance, to notice a very big young tree, very healthy looking and all green and fresh. And they even remarked, what a beautiful tree this is. Then they went, met Baba and went back. And next time when they went there, it seems that the whole tree had perished, because they said that the whole tree caught fire. Within its trunk there was a huge fire, and the whole tree just shriveled up within a week or two. And when they passed by, they noticed this shriveled up tree. And when they went, they even remarked to Baba, and it seems that Baba just made a casual remark, it's the effect of my work. Probably Baba must have just glanced at the tree and it just caught fire or something.
Strange thing for the tree to catch fire then.
Yeah, a live tree. So Mani just then tells us the immensity of Baba's work in seclusion, And that is why Baba would always warn the Mandali to keep off when he would be in this high-powered seclusion, because it could be disastrous if anybody were to disturb him at that time. So this was one of the things that Mani told us.
So in these seclusions, I'm struck by the fact that even Mera would see Baba only once a week.
I'm not sure, but I think it was probably once a week or twice a week. But Baba, was totally aloof from both the men and women Mandali. And Kaikobadji was there, and Baba would work with him during seclusion time also. That was one of the phases of his seclusion work, that Kaikobad Dastur would be with Baba in the seclusion room, and Baba would bow down to him several hundreds of times. And Kaikobad had to perform this work for Baba. He was given some special duties of repeating Baba's name 100,000 times or so.
And he went up to, I hear from Ansari, up to 200,000 before he died. And he seems to have had a distinctive kind of role, both in having been given such a instruction, and also he had some sort of a inner vision of Baba.
Yes. In fact, Iraj tells us about that Sant Kirpal Singh, one of the saints in India, who gave a lot of importance to these spiritual experiences, and how he was called to Satara once, and I think you heard up from Iraj how Iraj was sent with a message to Kirpal Singh, for some message which was given to him. And then Kirpal Singh happened to mention to Iraj that whether do you have any sort of spiritual experiences? And Iraj said, no, we don't get any spiritual experience. Then how is it that you could carry on the path without these experiences? What could keep you going? So Iraj just said that, well, we are not favored with this. So he says, then you must ask Baba to give you some experiences. So Iraj says, why don't you ask on our behalf? So he says, yes, now that Baba has called me, when I come, I will certainly do that. And then when Kirpal Singh came to see Baba, he was so overwhelmed with Baba's presence that he was there, and he just... it was a very beautiful way Iraj describes the meeting. So Baba was in his resplendent glory, and Kirpal Singh was he forgot everything, So then Iraj said, I reminded him, Kirpal Singh, why don't you ask Baba what you told me? Oh yes, and then he tells Baba, why don't you give spiritual experiences to the Mandali? So Baba says, well, I have one person who has these experiences. Would you like to meet him? Of course, Baba, I would. And then Kirpal Singh was taken to Kaikobad's room. And so they were closeted for some time. And then Baba, meantime, was conversing with the Mandali and the rest of Kirpal Singh's retinue, And after some time, Kirpal Singh comes out and says, Baba, what Kaikobad has just described to me is much way beyond what I experience. It's really remarkable, and this and that and all that. But really it's amazing, and this is how he described what Kaikobad told him, what experiences he was having. So this is how it was. So much so that Kirpal Singh even forgot to give lots of sweets and flowers that he had brought to offer to Baba. He forgot all about offering that to Baba. And after going, he came back to offer them to Baba. So that was a memorable meeting.
He sounds like was a very sincere and honest man.
Yeah. Nice person.
Yeah. Well, since the subject comes up on the floor, did you ever have any spiritual experiences of Baba?
No, not that I can ever think of. And in fact, Baba always discouraged all of us from ever trying to seek any of these experiences. Except that Terat said that it was only once that a semblance of this thing happened. That suddenly Baba clapped and called the Manli. I think it was in Satara only. And Baba says, now I want you to do one thing. When you go out and start meditating. Start meditating on the aspect of God as one of divine, of infinite effulgence and glory. So when I clap, you all start to meditate, and when I clap, stop and come back to me. So here it says that, and you should select any spot you like and go and sit there. So Baba then sent them out and he clapped. And here it said that they closed their eyes and began to meditate on this aspect, what Baba had told them. And he says that after a few minutes or so, he began to have a very nice sort of feeling of great light all over, and a very great feeling of joy and happiness. And he began to start enjoying this. As soon as it was starting, Baba clapped. And they had to rush back to him. And then here it says that Baba told him never to do this again. That's all. So
just taste.
Yeah. So this is as far as I think internal experiences for the Mandali. I don't know what anybody else might be having, but certainly nothing that I could have ever experienced.
It sometimes struck me that this is a part of Baba's work with his lovers, to somehow get his lovers to motivate, to find the motivation to try to follow him, to try to love him, to try to obey him, without these kinds of goodies.
Yeah.
And thus to get a little bit of the true motive out of his lovers.
Baba's stress was always on love. So, and love meant, actually later it meant sacrifice, self-effacement. That was what he was always arriving at, but very gradually. So his form was there, and he would make it so lovable to us that this was how the whole game would start, make people fall in love with him, and then the quiet fireworks would start inside, and then gradually trying to wean them out of the worldly ways by making them more and more one-pointed in their love for him, and in all this to make them pass through suffering. Yeah. So this is his way, and suffering means to sacrifice your own happiness, your own comforts, to please Baba, to lead a life that would please him, and which meant less of thinking for one's own self. Yeah. So to shift the focus of attention, and it's a painful process because for eons of time we have been focusing on our own self, on our own comfort, to protect ourselves, and this has to be given up. So it's a painful process. Yeah. So Baba's ways are different from the the conventionally accepted notions, of spiritual experiences and ecstasy and all that. None of that here. It's down to earth, an unending grind, as it were, but in gradual doses. Yeah. So that's how it is with Baba. Yes, so we were in Satara with all these little events happening, and it was, I think, in 1956 now that, no, in 1955, I think, Baba once came over to Pune. I'm not sure whether it was this date. I think it was in 55. That Baba wanted to give a darshan program in Pune. This is apart from the one that was given on the railway station platform. And I think the lovers of Pune said that, Baba, we would like to have a darshan program just as you gave for Andhra and Hamirpur. So Baba gave permission, and they selected a nice site somewhere near the Agriculture College Road.
Who was spearheading this? Who
Ramakrishna was becoming quite active then, and there was a group of people like Madhusudan, Thade, and all these. Little group had formed. Gadekar, of course, was the main person. So they all invited Baba, and Baba agreed. And I think it was in early January. Yes, it was the 14th of January, but I am not sure of the year. I think it was 1955 that Baba came. It was the occasion of Makar Sankrant. That is a very auspicious day for the Hindus. It is the day signifying the entry of the sun into the Makar Rashi. That means, when the sun has reached his nethermost and now starts to move up to the, so it's an auspicious day. Uttarayan, as they call it. So the sun is progressing to the northern latitudes now. So this is the day that the day starts to become big, according to Hindu calendar. And in Sakori, in Maharaj's place, it's a day for lots of ceremonies and all that. So in the Hindus it's quite auspicious. So Baba agreed, and that was the day Baba gave a public darshan to the Pune people. Baba came to Bindra House first, had a little refreshment, and then, I think he went straight to the place of darshan, but while returning, Baba came to Bindra House and took some food with him. Wouldn't stay at Bindra House because it was getting late, and took food to eat on the way. But it was a day-long program, and many thousands had Baba's darshan there. It was a good open space, which later has become the Rahul Theatre now, one of the big theatres in Pune. So at that time it was a big open compound, which they got from some people, and a big pandal was erected there.
So would people, is this one of these darshans where people were bowing before Baba and bowing at his feet?
Bowing at his feet. While the darshan was going on, somebody said, Baba wants Meherwan to come and have his darshan. So I went there and bowed down to Baba's feet. And then I don't know what got in my head. I went and said, Ramju, why aren't you having darshan? I just had Baba's darshan. He says, Baba is allowing? I said, yes, he called me. So the Ramju and the other Mandli also went and had Baba's darshan. And Baba looked, asking us, how come? I like a fool went and said something to them. They had Baba's darshan.
But Baba let it.
Yeah, but then Baba bowed down to the feet of the Mandli later.
Oh, I see.
And I was very, very upset about having caused this sort of little misunderstanding.
Did Baba bow down to your feet?
No.
Just that.
Baba asked me to.
He asked you.
Yeah, not But that was later, of course, right. Not during the Mast.
That occasion, yeah. Were there many times you had bowing down at Baba's feet? I remember in Bangalore you used to do that.
Yeah.
Upstairs, but it wasn't something that he had generally permitted to you or to any of the Mandli. Is that right?
In the old days, they would be allowed to do it.
Before the new life or
earlier? Earlier.
But after the new life, that was really...
Oh, even before, much before new life. It was discontinued. So it was not the usual thing. Yeah. But in the early days, Baba would allow people to bow down to his feet, even the Mandli. Yeah. So this was a darshan program that I remember in that period. And then Baba returned to Satara same evening. He came in the morning in the car and returned same evening.
So he had been at Satara for several years, in fact.
Yeah, this is, I think, from 1953, when he returned from Dehradun. He went to Mahabaleshwar, stayed there for a few months, and then when the rain started, he shifted to Satara, and then the stay in Satara began. And it went on until 1956 December, which was the time when this second accident took place.
And from that time on, he was at Meherzad or Guru Prasad.
Yeah, that was the end of Baba's stay at Satara.
You know, one thing I've been struck by, Meherwan, throughout your accounts is how, in a certain way, the external aspect of what Baba was doing, the phases that he went through, didn't really seem to have affected, in a deep down way, your and the whole family's relationship to him. And I mean, like, in a sense, we talked in the new life, meeting Baba was really just meeting Baba again.
Yeah.
And I've often heard that, starting with the new life, Baba, many of his lovers have felt that he was, in a sense, cutting external contacts more and more. In fact, there's a talk in a discourse he gave, a public address, where he talks about the establishment of internal links.
Yeah.
And some have felt that this was part of Baba's work to reducing external contact so that it would be more a matter of internal links. But when you describe your years with Baba, it doesn't seem like this really affected the substance of your relationship at all.
Yeah.
All these things.
Because it was he who sent us to stay at Bindra House, and he said that I would be coming very often. Yeah. So he maintained that link. He kept up his promise that way. Yeah. And we never felt like that. Although the physical separation was there, but still Baba would be in contact with us off and on. And we had this very live and living contact with him all throughout. Yes. Right until the time he dropped his body. Yeah. And
what a wonderful good fortune.
Yeah. So it was suffering also and joy also, because we were away from him physically most of the time, but he would keep coming often. Whenever he passed through Pune, Bindra House would be one of the halls for him. Yeah. So in that way, we always had contact with him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so in 1955, that was the big occasion of Baba's Darshan program. And then in 56, Baba let it be known that he would be traveling to the West once again. So when this was sent out, then hectic preparations were going on in the West to welcome Baba again. This was the first time after the accident that Baba would be visiting the West. And while this was going on, Baba, I remember, came to spend a few days at Meherazad, away from Satara. Baba was headquartered at Satara then. So Baba came to Meherazad, and at that time, of course, I was working in the insurance company, as I told you. And in 1956, it was the first time that there was this reorganization of the states of India. And there was a lot of political upheaval because there was a clamor for different states. Andhra state was then formed at that time, especially. So a lot of upheaval was going on, and there were big riots and public disturbances. So in the insurance, this was a time for making a lot of money by the insurance companies for riot and fire risks,
Oh, I see.
So I was in charge of that, and I would have to work late into the nights to prepare these policies and send them out, because there was clamoring from all over for insurance, because people's properties were being burnt and due to riot, so special covers had to be given. So working continuously affected my health, and I had a slight sort of breakdown, mental overwork. So it came to Baba's ears. So Baba sent word that I should take leave for a month and come to Meherazad.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was the the first time that I came to Meherazad for an extended stay. So I took a leave for a month, and they allowed me to have leave, because after that the riots had tapered off and the work had eased up, and as I wasn't feeling too well, they allowed me to have leave, and I came over to Meherazad and was here. Baba had brought 3 or 4 of the mandli with him. The rest were all at Satara. Amongst the mandli were here, I think, was Erach, Gustaji, and I don't know whether Vishnu or 1 or 2 others were there. The rest were all at Satara, in charge of Pendu. Yeah, at Rosewood. The women, of course, all had come here. And so hectic preparations were going on. So messages had to be prepared for Baba to give them out to the West. And that time, these messages they were in the form of discourses. So it had told me that, look, you have some time, so take out some extracts from these discourses, so we could give them out as messages. So then I readily took it up and took out these extracts and they are the basis of life at its best. So, yeah.
These were excerpted then from longer...
From longer messages of Baba, discourses of Baba, which are yet unpublished. So
when had he created those longer discourses? Were those?
I think in the 30s.
Oh.
Yeah. Or 30s or 40s. So there are many of these unpublished discourses. So Baba wouldn't want to give all these long sermons there. So pity things from those things to be brought out. So somehow Baba inspired me to get out these. And I told Erich, I feel very nervous about it. I might leave out something good. So he says, do whatever you can, because they were so busy corresponding and all that.
No time.
Yeah. And there was also some query in God Speaks. There was a controversy, about Baba's spiritual hierarchy, about the 56 perfect ones, and how come that Baba is saying 5 perfect masters and there's these 56 perfect masters, and what is this? So the functioning hierarchy was the message that Baba gave us. So a sort of clarification for something that was like a contradiction in God Speaks.
Oh, I see.
Which has come in a later supplement, I think. Yeah. So that was being done, and everything was going on at a very hectic pace. Baba was supposed to come and have a little relaxation here before going to the West, and this was his relaxation. And I was supposed to have relaxation.
So you were...
yeah. And
so I hadn't known that part of your career includes that of a literary editor.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what it was, but so we formed these extracts, and then these were read out to Baba, and he liked them. He said, they're nice, but we would like to have titles for these. So it says, Baba, since Deshmukh has typed out these discourses, we might as well call him. So Baba says, yes, send for him. So Deshmukh was sent for, and he came over, and he then put these little appropriate titles to each of these messages. Yeah. So he would be typing here.
That's interesting. I had known nothing about the history of that book.
Nobody knows. Yeah. This is the first time I'm revealing it.
Where are the full discourses that these are from?
They are in the records somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. So I would be busy from morning till evening, and Baba would come and say, now why you did all this? Stop typing. Baba, I said, a lot of typing is to be done. Erich wants them ready. There's not much time. So he would sympathize with me. You are coming here for rest. What is this? You are overexerting. And actually he liked it,
That you were working.
Yeah. And I also enjoyed doing it. I was putting in all efforts in that.
It must have been nice to be here at Meherazad with Baba with such,
very intimate.
Very intimate time.
So that was the time when I first came, and Baba said, you have long years just outside this hall. It was open then. There was no veranda. Baba says, make full use of these big years that God has given you. Hear everything from one ear and let it out the other. So meaning that I shouldn't harbor anything that goes on, and not to try and play one to the other, against the other, just to be an observer. That was actually Baba would want all of us to do that, to be a sort of observer in the world, and not to get involved with things. Yeah, just listen, observe, and be a witness. That's the thing he encouraged us to do. And it's a policy that would benefit everybody if they did it. But unfortunately, we have a tendency to get involved in little things, and then the controversy starts. So even Tukaram has said in one of his poems, Tuka mane ugirha je je asal tete paha. Tukaram says, be quiet and just observe what keeps happening in front of you. So, be a witness, that's all. That means you should be resigned to God's will. So...
Did you get, at this time in your life, with the various mandalay, were your relations good?
I would be chums with all the mandali.
You would never get in a big brawl with anybody?
No,
like
far from.
Kaka?
No. They would all want to.
There wasn't a Baijil to your Kaka as a
No. But as of course Baidul wasn't there at the time, Kaka was there of course. So he would tell me old time stories. And it would be difficult to come away, because once Kaka started his stories, then it would go on for hours. So difficult for me to extract myself from there.
He sounds like he was quite a character.
Oh yeah, a very tough fellow. One of the toughies,